Okay, quick update. Some guys might be wondering where have I been for a while. Well, first and foremost, I haven't really had a lot of gear or knives or other weapons or shit like that to talk about. There may have been a couple of high profile incidents between here and there in the other place, but I've really been very, very, very busy lately. A lot lately. Now, thank God there's no problem in my personal life. There's no, death or injury or illness or anything like that. But um, working overnight, there was a team they called the Prime Team, which is a team that comes to work either a half hour early, 45 minutes early, or an hour early, depending on what time of year it is. And they just start the process. So they come in a little early and they make a little more money. And one of the guys who I had trained was on the team in like 3 months. And he said, "How come you weren't on the team? How come no one?" And I said, "You got to be invited by a manager." And one of the managers was standing right there and said, "Vinny, you want on the team?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay, you're on." "When? Next week?" "No, tomorrow." "Well, I'm off tomorrow." "Okay, Thursday." So all it takes is a manager's permission, and I got a manager's permission. So that means I've been going in half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour earlier, depending on time what's going on. So that's been less time for me, personally. Now, because this is what we call the peak season, because figure the week before Thanksgiving until the end of the year, we work 6 nights instead of 5. Because and on top of that, we come in 2 hours earlier. Even the guys on the prime team come in earlier. So there's been a lot less time to watch videos, to analyze things going on in the world, stuff like that. I get a lot more money, which is very important, but less time. Also, keep in mind, every school day, I still owe the police department 2 shifts a day. So I've been very, very busy lately. And Tuesday is my bonus day. I'm only off on Tuesday, but I go in on Tuesday. I had no police department work today, so I worked there and then came home. But I have a lot of things going on, professionally, not personally, and there is nothing really wrong with me. I'm not sick. I'm not in the hospital. I'm not dead. Okay, aside from that aspect of that. Now, one thing I think I should talk about is, and I am very, 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 very disturbed by the aftermath of the October 7th attacks. Now, I'm very disturbed by the October 7th attacks, but I'm actually more disturbed by the aftermath than I am by the attacks themselves. And I'm more disturbed by what's going on in my own country than I am by what's going on in Israel. Now, as you all know, my grandfather liberated a concentration camp. Most of my followers know that. And when I was 9 years old, I saw pictures of him holding a dead body. He was carrying a dead body with one of his men, and there was a picture of a mass grave. And the issue was, I saw this when I was 9, him digging up the bodies for at least some humane burial. Now, when I was a little older, who remembers when we had HBO Band of Brothers? There was an episode where they liberated a concentration camp. And the very next day, I saw my grandfather. So this is a couple years. He's been dead for a while. This is a couple years ago. And my grandfather was telling me everything that happened in the episode, even though he didn't see the episode. Well, he wasn't at that camp, but he was at a camp, and they told people, you got to keep the guys inside the concentration camp. You can't let them out until the doctors come. And you can't give them food or anything until the doctors come, because the doctors got to make sure their stomachs are okay, they can swallow and chew. So he liberated the camp, then dug up the bodies. And around the same time as my grandfather showed me the pictures way back in the day, I was in third grade, the Gulf War was going on. And I was seeing Israel getting bombed because, hey, reasons, right? So I've been seeing atrocities visited against the Jews and atrocities visited against Israel for many, many years. So when a bunch of terrorists go to Israel and kill their women and children, it doesn't shock me. It just doesn't. I expect terrorists to kill women and children. What is shocking to me is the number of people in this country who support Hamas and the terrorism. Okay, you live in the greatest country in the world, a country that is multicultural, and you are condoning violence against an entire race of people, even though some of those people live in your country, and some of their family members live in their country. We have Americans here on our soil that have family in Israel. One of the little girls whose parents were killed right in front of her, she's a dual citizen, United States and Israel. And it shocks me that we're seeing college campuses are actually celebrating the attacks. We have someone working for Department of Homeland Security went on Instagram and posted a painting of a Hamas terrorist parachuting into Israel with an AK-47. We have people on college campuses calling for Jews to be killed. We have people in New York City who are calling for there was that one video where a woman says, the Zionist pigs got what they deserved. There have been Jewish students physically assaulted on campuses. There were Jewish students saying, what if I get killed on campus? What if I get raped on campus? You have, today, there was a hearing today where some bitch from Harvard, a professor or administrator or high-ranking person was saying in Congress, a congressional hearing, that Harvard recognizes free speech. Really? So if I go to Harvard with a Gadsden flag or a Second Amendment T-shirt, that's okay? And they pointed out that there's a professor in Harvard who's calling for the extermination of all Jews. Well, I hate to tell you this, but if you bother, and this is fucking Harvard. Harvard was supposed to be a smart school. Well, if you're a professor or an administrator from the smartest school in the country, don't you know that the Supreme Court said that you do not have a right to threaten to kill people? The Supreme Court said that threatening to kill people is not protected speech. That comes from the High Court. And considering that several justices on the court went to Harvard, you would think they would know that. When I was in high school, we had a guy, I was an 8th grader coming to look at the school, and one of my future brothers, who was class of 96, he was a senior that year, he got accepted to Harvard. And it was a bonanza for the school. And then when I was a senior, hosting the open house for the 8th graders coming in next year, my principal said he is not going to the CIA. And now, who remembers the 90s, the yo mama jokes, your mama's so fat, your mama's so dumb. Okay, Harvard is such a fucking disgrace that in another couple of years they're going to be saying your mama's so stupid she went to Harvard. Harvard is becoming the laughingstock of the country. And keep in mind, Harvard is older than the country. Harvard was founded by, I think, the fucking Pilgrims. It existed before 1700. And now it's become a laughingstock. The students that go there are stupid. The teachers that go there are stupid. They're all racist. They want to kill fucking Jews. This is fucking disgusting. Now, the manager at work, at my overnight, who put me on the prime team, she is a Muslim. And she's a Muslim who works in a supervisory role of mostly Christians. And we have a handful of Jews there, I think. Not a lot, but a handful. And she is actually the easiest manager to get along with. Now, if she were to go to the Middle East, okay, and they would see her speaking English, or they would see her befriending Christians, or befriending Jews, or adopting Western culture, they would kill her. She works in a supervisory role where she supervises Christians. Therefore, according to them, she is an apostate and must be killed. Muhammad called for the Jews, the Christians to be killed, but he also called for Muslims who disagree with him to be killed. This is their prophet. Now, the Jews were in that area of the world before the Christians or the Muslims came along, period. But regardless of how you feel about the Jews, regardless of how you feel about the land of the dispute, okay, killing women and children is disgusting. Yes, in America, we have stolen land. I know that, I'm not an idiot. But the Native Americans in our country are not walking around and killing fucking, non-natives. They're not saying, Great Spirit Akbar and bombing us and shit. And raping us and cutting our heads off and shit like that. Okay? So regardless of any professional argument you could make about why this land belongs to us instead of you, the fact that you go and kill women and children renders your argument invalid. And mostly, these fucking people in this country, they get offended by everything. I'm offended that the cloud is white. I'm offended that the dirt is brown. I'm offended that can of soda is red. I'm offended that it's Tuesday. I'm offended that blah, 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 blah. Okay? You're offended by literally everything. Literally everything. I could take out a fucking piece of bread and put the piece of bread on the counter and you'll be offended by that. Is peanut butter and jelly racist? Why are babies racist? Okay? Yet you who complains about everything because you need a safe space, you're calling for Jews to be killed. Also, you're like, my pronouns are, I identify as, okay? I want you to go to the Middle East. And I want you to go to any of these countries. And I want you to tell them what your pronouns are. Or what you identify as. I want you to have a poster that says non-binary trans lives matter. Okay? They will fucking kill you. They will fucking kill you. Do you know that if you went to the Middle East and Palestine or Iran or whatever the fuck they go in the Middle East, okay? If you were to go to any area of the Middle East, you were to walk around with a gay pride t-shirt, okay? And a Hamas terrorist saw you. You're in Palestine. You're in either Palestine or the part of Israel that Palestine invaded. Hamas invaded. But you're in that region. Okay? And a Hamas terrorist sees you. The Hamas terrorist has an AK-47 with 30 rounds in the magazine. Because gun control, right? And you walk around the corner this way with a gay pride t-shirt. Okay? And 30 Jews walk around the corner this way. Do you know that Palestinian, the Hamas terrorist, who sees you with the gay pride t-shirt, okay, he has 30 rounds in the magazine. You're here, 30 Jews are there. He would literally shoot you with all 30 bullets and walk right past the Jews. Okay? You who supports him killing the Jews, but when he sees you, he kills you. Okay? All these fucking not liberals belong to categories that they would kill. Gay, bi, trans, I identify as, my pronouns are, I'm offended by everything, okay? You're offended by that, okay? Go to Hamas and tell Hamas you're offended by the sword, or you're offended by the shovel, you're offended by the car. You're offended by the t-shirt. You're offended by the window. You're offended by the tree. They would fucking kill you. Now, what shocks me the least is the amount of support for Hamas within the Democratic Party in America. Okay? You literally have Chuck Schumer, who is a Jew, who is saying, la 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 la, I support Israel, la 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 la, bring them home, blah 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 blah. Okay? Chuck Schumer was on the floor of the Senate calling for funding for Gaza. He's calling for funding for Gaza. Hello? Okay? Rashida Tlaib was waving the Palestinian flag in front of her office as the attack was going on. Omar, right? The other one's Omar. Omar has said several times that the Holocaust gives her warm feelings. Okay? She's called for Israel to be destroyed many times. Okay? You have the Democratic Party and virtually every Democratic politician pretended to support Israel during the attacks. And then when they realized that all the people in this country who were calling for the Jews to be killed were members of their own party, they said, well, Israel's got to slow down. We got to call for a ceasefire. We have to have peace. I mean, it's fucking amazing. I saw many, many, many years ago. Now, who remembers Strom Thunberg? Or Strom Thurmond? Okay. This guy was a senator. He was in office for decades. He lived to over 100. He is the only documented person in the entire country to be a segregationist and switch from Democrat to Republican. Remember how the liberals say all the races became Republicans one day? Like every Klansman said one day, hey, let's become Republicans today. He is the only documented Democrat segregationist to become a Republican. All the rest stay Democrat. Republican Senator Trent Lott was praising his past racial comments, like 50 years later and shit. Every single Republican in the country called for Trent Lott to resign, and he resigned. Trent Lott literally said, he literally heaped praise on 50-year-old racial comments. And he was forced to resign, and rightly so. Now, you have Democrats, Democratic voters, Democratic politicians who are literally calling for the Jews to be killed. And their own party, the Democratic Party, realizes, holy shit, we can't support Israel because our members are the terrorist supporters. Okay? You see Michigan, full of Muslims. And the Democratic Party automatically assumes that all of them hate the Jews, whether it's true or not. And they say, oh shit, we can't support Israel because we'll lose Michigan in the next election. This is literally going on in this country. Now, think about this for a minute. There is more anti-Semitism in this country today than there was in Germany 90 years ago. How did that end? Thank you.